Excitech search is not only very fast and powerful, it can also work completely offline. So everything that I'm about to show you can be done whilst you're disconnected from your office and indeed the internet. So a typical thing that you might want to do is you come in here and you're thinking, well, I know that the message mentions something to do with site. So I type in site and it's found three messages. And if we toggle the preview on, it's found that this message in the subject line mentions site and it's also in the body. And if I pick the next message, you'll see that that's in the body there. Let's just reset that and we'll look at a slightly different situation. So if I type in Abigail, but I'm going to deliberately misspell it. So not surprisingly, it's not found Abigail, but if I add the tilde character after that, that's the little squiggle character, what it's done is it's found instances of the word Abigail spelled correctly. And this can be used in a number of scenarios. So let's say, for instance, you type in transmit and then puts a tilde after it. It will find transmittal, transmittals, transmitting, transmits, and so on. So sometimes it won't be you that's the problem. It'll be a colleague who can't spell, or perhaps what you're searching for needs to be broadened, and that can be really, really helpful in helping you to pinpoint what you're looking for. So I'll dismiss that and we'll turn the preview off. Now let's say, for instance, we're looking for something that we know Steve was involved in. So I can type in Steve here in the all parties column. And you'll notice actually that on every single column, there's a row here where you can apply a filter. So what that's doing is it's saying it's looking for instances of Steve in the all parties column. In other words, any messages that were either from Steve or to Steve, or perhaps he was CC'd. So that can be very helpful when you're not really clear. A lot of the time you will know, so you might say, well, I'm fairly sure it was to Steve and it was from Charlie. And you'll notice I haven't fully typed Charlie's name, but it's filtered that down straight away to messages that are from Charlie to Steve. Let's reset that. Sometimes you're looking for a particular day period in time, and so up here what I can do is filter, and perhaps I want to say between a couple of dates. So I might say we want to go back in time, and we'll go back to 2017. Perhaps it's June the 14th, and it's let's say a couple of weeks earlier than now. And so straight away, this has filtered it down to those messages that are between that period. When you're filtering, it can be useful to, you'll have seen that we can see the details of the message. We can see some of the formatting as well, the color, underline, bold, all of that sort of thing. But what we can do here is actually show an awful lot of detail. So often the recognition of the message is the most important thing, that you recognize it by how it appears. On other occasions, it may be that you know that the message had a certain number of attachments. So if I pick here, you might think, well, I know it was more than 0, so I'm going to pull that across and say, well, it's definitely more than 0, but it was less than 9, probably about 4 or 5. Pull that down and you'll see that straight away it's filtered it down to those messages, in this case between 1 and 5. I'm going to reset that once more. You may want to, we looked at attachments there, and you may want to then add a column that shows you details about those attachments. So if I pick the column chooser here, there's a range of fields that I can add. I'm going to pick the attachment one, drag that to where I want it. Let's say we want it here. And now I can see the names of the attachments. And when I've finished, all I need to do is right click on here and hide that column. Any of these columns can be picked up and moved around. So if I want to move the all parties column over there to after the to message, I can do that and drop that there, and away we go. If you want to open a message, All you need to do is double click it. So if I double click on this message here, it happens to be in M files. That's what that icon is representing. This has now been pulled out of M files. You can see the message in all of its glory with its attachments, and I can do a reply or forward or whatever I need to with that. And that will work equally well, whether it's on the file system, out on the cloud, wherever it happens to be. So lastly, we're going to have a look at how you can export some of the data. So occasionally you may need to filter the data down, just as you've seen there, and then get that to somebody else. So you might add certain columns that are going to give you the information that you need, perhaps those attachment names, and then you can select the rows that you're interested in. And then if you pick here, export to Excel, we can pick on the name. We're going to use the same name that I've used before. Export that out, and then oops, let's just bring that up. There we go. Open the search results, and here are the messages that we selected with the columns that we selected, and I can tidy that up and send that off.